call the meeting to order. It's about 5:05 on September 10th. You could take the roll.
Sure. Okay. Steve Rigger,
Here.
Patricia Redmond,
Here.
Mary Ann Burke,
Here.
and then myself, Amy Solberg, support staff.
Barbara Jones, Municipal Clerk.
And Rose Boley, budget analyst.
You have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. So the first item of business is approval of the agenda, which is on the third tab down in your packet.
I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Any objection? The agenda is approved, and there are minutes attached underneath that same tab for the meeting of February 12th.
And I did read them, and I move that we approve the minutes as presented.
Second the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, the minutes are approved. Next, is there any old business? None in the packet. New business. First item is discussion of reappointments.
So, on October 14th is when your terms, all three of your terms are up. And so we were wondering if you guys would like to be reappointed.
This is bad. I have given it consideration, and yes, I would, unless, do we have term limits?
It's 3 years, I believe.
No.
That's just.
Term limits.
You know, I know that in the past, there were some boards and commissions that were three-year terms. But I know that in the past, Mayor Sullivan actually appointed some people to 4 3-year terms. So I'm not positive if anybody's following that anymore. And considering that there are 2 vacancies on this board, I would hope that if someone wanted to continue, that the mayor would take that into consideration.
Because I would like to continue. And the other is, you notice that all 3 of our terms are expiring at the same time. And we really need to have them staggered. You can't lose a whole commission at one time. So you might make sure that somehow that gets in the past. I think that it's just the way it worked out, but there was a time when should be some other terms that were staggered.
We'll talk to the administration about that. When Amy has some of the materials and probably needs some other materials from you.
Yes. So we have a yes for Pat.
Yes.
Okay.
And this is Steve Rieger. I'm willing to serve again. Yeah, and I'll echo Pat's comments. It would be nice to see the vacancies filled. So
Okay.
maybe
Bill and
whoever-
Stack.
Okay. And
And
Mary Ann?
yes for me.
Okay, and so I would need an updated version of your resumes, and because it looks like in the past for the AMs, it has your resumes attached to it.
Do we need to send this application in to you also?
I don't think you need to
Okay.
send an application
But
if
just-
you're just being reappointed.
Okay.
Amy will notify the mayor's office, and if the mayor's office needs something else from you, then they'll contact you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Could I get a copy of my last resume?
Yeah,
The only ones I've got are so long.
Oh, my
Yeah,
gosh.
or-
I know.
And if you want those, just tell Amy and she can submit the ones that we have.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't an extra copy, is it? This is
You can
your
have that
copy.
one.
Oh.
You can have that one. I can make another copy.
Is that everybody's resume? Or just
That's
Mary Ann's?
hers, and
See
then
what I mean? It's,
yours is in here. Would you like me to print out a copy for yours?
Well, actually, I
You
can
can
just-
email it. Can you email it?
Yeah.
Because that way I can just look to see which one I have. Because I mean, I have one that lists all the boards and stuff, and then I have another one that lists other things.
You know, I can probably glance at this after the meeting and just tell you if it's fine to just resubmit the same thing.
Okay.
So I'll try to remind me after the meeting. Any other discussion on the reappointments? Okay, hearing none, there's no action item there other than the conversation. Discussion of salaries. Number one is assembly members. Maybe
So-
Amy, you can refresh our memory of where that is.
For the assembly members, we actually have this is yearly, annual.
Thank you.
So tell me how to read this. So, for example, 4/16/2014, a member of the assembly receives $28,017.60 per year.
Mhm.
And that, is there an escalator in our former action, or is that gonna stay at that, barring any action by us?
I think it's, this is,
Yeah, your resolutions, I think, are in the back. And
It looks like it for 10, 11, and 12, they
We did have escalators, but then it stopped there.
that was to, I believe that was to bring them up into
had resolution 2008-2. Do we have anything more current?
yeah. Other than we addressed that the pinning compensation thing.
so although the number is slightly different than the number in your resolution 2008-2 amended, I have a feeling that is the rounding issue that employee relations talked to you about.
And the other, does this include benefits?
It does not.
Okay. Yeah, because it's a 30, yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Nothing was done in 2012.
Could you repeat that, Mary Ann?
Nothing was done in 2012.
Well, in the ordinance though that, or in the resolution.
Right, it does have that, but I mean
Approved.
forward.
No, nothing forward.
That was the last resolution that this body passed that affected the assembly and the school board was the 2008-2. But I have to tell you, I'm not sure I understand section 7 of that resolution. It says anyone can have the amount of $250 bi-weekly.
It's a health allowance. That's what I was thinking of.
And it says that it's not included in the base salary.
If it says they also may take the funds as taxable salary.
Right.
Choose, so that's hard to tell from this if that's,
Hmm.
and it's 4% annual increase.
Boy, read in context between 1 and 7, where it's excluded from the 4%, it sure looked to me like that is intended to be separate from what's mentioned in section 1.
And I would agree with you that it is not included in this,
Yeah.
so that,
It doesn't look like it is. Because according to the E-Hall, to 2012 is the same in the resolution as I wrote, so it must not be included in that base salary.
So then the question is, do we want to make any changes in their act reading previously? Either the school board or the, well, we're addressing the assembly first, right? Do we want to make any changes in the assembly salary?
They have not had an increase then since 2010,
12.
12, right.
But do they need an increase?
Not in, I think in this economic environment, it would be unwise.
Even if it's not, even if it doesn't go into effect with some of them until, I think, I'm not inclined to. What do you think, Steve?
Well, I'll tell you my thinking. There's one argument for and one argument against. I think that this resolution in 2008 was right about the time of the crash, you know, the 2007, 2008 crash. And 4% seemed at that time to be a reasonable cost of living escalator. It was, I don't recall, but I'm guessing it was probably intended to mean that you just kept up with inflation and it wasn't intended to be an increase or a decrease.
Wasn't the inflation much lower at that time?
Well, as
Because
soon
of
as the crash happened, the inflation dropped. I'm not sure if that dawned on us in 2008 because it was right when it was occurring. And actually at that time, I think a lot of uncertainty was whether there would be increased inflation as part of it. So in reality, it came out at around 1 to 2%, and it's been 1 to 2% ever since. So really, the two 4% increases are probably about the same as if it were actual inflation up to now. So it's not like there's a catch-up that's needed.
No, I don't think there's a
Yeah.
catch-up, but mainly
Right.
because 2008 and 2009, inflation was so far down.
Right, and it's never taken off. It's never exceeded
Hasn't.
2% since. So in a way, if it had been an actual inflation escalator, they probably would have gone from 2010 to 2015 and gotten right about to where they are now anyway. So there's not a catch-up needed. The question is, should we anticipate the future and try to set anything that anticipates cost of living for 2016 or 2017?
and we know what the municipality is projecting. Rose and I have been working on the budget for 2016, and I think is the projection
1.5.
1.5.
So I would, so I mean, my thinking is that if you take no action, it's actually tantamount to a salary reduction. If you, so you, I mean, you can, and you could do that. I mean, you could say that, you know, these are hard times and it's a way for things equaling out, but I don't think in my view, it's not an increase to adjust salaries for anticipated future inflation. So, you know, so.
Yeah,
What about the, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, the other part of it is, what we pass now doesn't go into effect until after the April election. It doesn't affect anybody now. And then, even then, it may not affect some of them. I can't remember how this was written. It seemed like only those people who are newly elected, something like that.
And yeah, and I don't know,
Or
Barbara,
re-elected,
yeah.
so anybody who's not running,
Just continue the same
they
situation.
don't
as
change.
with the mayor.
Theirs doesn't change.
right, even if you're reelected, you have to be actually new.
Yeah, or you can be newly re-elected to the same office.
What is the municipality doing as far as salaries for their employees?
That's what, Rose and I were talking about, is a 1.5
1.5.
projected increase for 2016.
And you don't look past 2016. It's hard enough to do that.
Mhm.
You know, maybe we could, this would have to be passed though before the end of the year, be in the budget cycle, or.
Right, and so you have time to do that. I think there may be something in code that says it needs to be done, you know, maybe by the end of the year, December 1st or something like that. So you do still have a little bit of time.
I'm just thinking how it would be perceived. Probably no one will even notice it, but, when everything is so hard right now, to give the assembly an increase, but we had the same
It'd be
argument with the
December.
mayor.
Yeah.
But that was a catch-up situation.
Yeah, we needed to do that, right? Well, it's, if, tell me if my math is right, but if a salary is 228,000, and you're given a 1.5% increase hypothetically, that's $420. My math is right. So it's not a lot of money, even if you extend that out by all the assembly members, which you won't, because most of them, aren't necessarily going to be replaced right away, or ever. Well, I guess they have term limits. I mean, they will eventually be replaced, but so we're talking $4,000 or $5,000 after 9 years.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not thinking of it as a total impact one way or another. I'm just
Yeah.
looking at it and how it's perceived.
Perceived.
So one other way to look at the perception, we're talking about $11 or $12 an hour. And, I've worked here for a little over 3 years now. And, I know Amy's worked here for almost a year this month. And I think that we can tell you that they work really hard, and that most of them do not work part-time. There are probably, half of them that work full-time in this job. There are a couple that probably work about 80 to 90 hours in this job. And, there are a couple that have other jobs, so they can only work part-time. But I think that the pay, the per hour pay, I think that they're all earning it, and then some.
And I do know that the people in my area show up for our community council meetings, not just ours, but there are 4 or 5 other community councils in that boundary, and they try to get to, at least one or the other of the representatives try to get to them. I mean, that's just one thing that they do, it's not.
Right, they do the community councils in their area, most of them have 5 or 6, some of the ones on the hillside, they get probably a little worse. We have about 16 committees, and they are incredibly active. And sometimes the committees meet with the other committees. Amy had a 3-committee meeting, marijuana, public safety, and community development. They're all trying to figure out how to regulate marijuana businesses, and they're all interested in it. So all 3 of the committees met together. And then some of them do serve on boards and commissions like this. I think a lot of them, and a lot of what their time is constituent relations. We preserve the records for them of emails and other items that come to them. And they get a lot of constituent inquiries and probably hundreds that we don't even know about. We just know about the group email ones. So I do think that they're all working really hard. I mean, the assembly meetings and the packets alone have increased substantially in the last 4 or 5 years. I think they're doing a lot more work for the city. And you know, we did have some documents that we brought to you a year or so ago, and it's kind of an interesting hodgepodge of stuff. You know, I've talked to Rose about doing a compensation study for the assembly department, and there's a couple of logistical reasons why the assembly department is out of step with the municipality. It has to do with the way our employees are classified. And so we're looking at having a option on the request to include elected officials. But one of the things that I remember, this was just, I picked cities, and the one that was the same, combined city counties that were the size of Anchorage. And one of them was Riverside. And
My hometown.
well, and you know, the Riverside City Council, I think in the documents you have here, they get paid $100 and some thousand a year. You know, for the city council members. Now, in contrast, you've got the municipal league salary survey there on top, and if you look at the mayor, and I think there's some council members on about the bottom of the third page, and, you know, you're looking at average wages of 0. So,
I knew that when I got that, I noticed it was a really fantastic range from 0 to, let's see, an awful lot.
Juneau, 6,000 per month.
Per month?
Per month, that's what it says, plus health insurance.
So
Well, I
you
could-
think 1.5% a good number?
Yeah, I think it's a big deal to move off of, to choose a different number than what the muni's using for everyone else. I mean,
Yeah.
it might be that 1 3/4 or 1 1/4 is the right number, but.
That's why I picked.
Yeah, so if that's what the muni's using, I think there's a lot of logic of using the same number.
And then it would be the same, though, it would be, there's a different figure for the chair of the assembly, but it was still 4%. So, and
Yeah.
it's really complicated because it says the chair of the assembly, if the newly elected or an official newly re-elected shall receive as set. And then if the chair is not newly elected official or officially re-elected to the same, the salary will remain the same as currently set. So we have to make sure we have all that wording.
Do you know why that is, Pat?
Yes, because you can't affect setting seating, I mean, it's like, you can't set your own salary. And they will be, because they make a final approval of this.
No,
They don't. But it had to do, when you go back through, it's that way, it might even be in the charter.
Okay.
It might even be in the
So
charter.
we should probably check that, because I can tell you
'Cause it was really
that
hard.
is one of those logistical nightmares for payroll and us trying to figure out, you know, and basically what happened, I think when Ernie Hall became chair, this one, so he did get an increase when he went to become chair.
They were, it's really complicated, and I think it has to do with, but it has to do with, you can't, you know, somebody's already currently in office, you can't raise their salary. You can only raise it if they're reelected. The same thing goes for the school board, they're all set that way. But I'd have to think back
If
about
they
it.
go on, just for my information, if they go off the school board for a term and come back, are they treated as if
A newly
elected?
elected. Mhm. So it would, and it's the same, they went off the assembly and then came back.
Yeah, this actually goes farther than I
Yeah,
thought
this
we
is
could,
really
because
good.
it says that even if you're in the same position and newly re-elected, the new salary takes effect. I didn't know we could do that. Or I didn't remember that we could do that. So.
Yeah, if you're newly reelected, then it's an interesting, you know, it isn't it sounds so simple, yes, we're gonna do this, and then we have to take a look, because, and then the same thing applies here, for the school board, it has the same, it's all in the same resolution.
Barbara, do you have the charter there?
You know, I don't, but I can go get it for you. I was just gonna chat. There was, here's an interesting thing that Karen Norsworthy prepared for you. This is in your meeting packet from January 15th. And so she made a little proposal here for assembly salaries, if you wanna take, that's the last page of that packet, and I'll go get the charter for you.
I have the code.
Yeah, she did type, she addressed to newly elected member, re-elected, and chair. And we didn't do anything to affect January the 15th. So here's the July 2016. Okay, this actually helps. This is based on the,
So I should probably, Amy and I will make, Amy had it.
No,
Oh,
I had
You had
this.
it, good.
Well, this said
Oh, this-
code. I didn't know if that was the name of the charter.
Nope, that's the
You know?
charter, it's 508.
Okay.
But we need to make, and make sure that that's in all of your binders.
It is. It's
Oh, great.
in the January 15th. I believe
part
it's
of
the
this.
first
Okay.
one.
it's part of this.
Well, you know, I guess it's a little bit unclear to me whether if you are re-elected, that triggers the change in compensation if you're the same person. But it looks like that's the precedent we've always followed. So I'm fine with that. I just want to make sure it's correct.
Well,
See, what this resolution that is in our packet, the one that we're looking at,
Mhm.
makes it real clear that if you're re-elected, the new salary triggers at the point of your
even though you're
reseating.
continuing.
Even though you're
Right.
Without a
continuing.
break in service.
Yeah,
Right.
and maybe that's, someone's researched it and that's fine, so.
So if you
Yeah.
would like, we could look into that. I think we're doing, as good of a job as we can, like on the resolution on the penny. I
Yeah.
realize that sounds
Here.
ridiculous.
Is this from the charter, this
508 is from the charter,
Okay,
508C.
then it does say, it's a decision of the commission to adjust the compensation of election officials shall not affect seated election officials, but shall affect those elected officials seated after the election following approval of the decision. A decision not affecting the compensation of them takes effect at the beginning, but not affecting the compensation takes a decision to, is subject to initiative and referendum.
Yeah, no, that's just what I was looking at, Pat, and I mean, I think,
Yeah. I think that's,
you know, I mean, I think it was fine what was done in the last resolution, but
Right.
it's a little bit ambiguous, you know.
And I
you know,
wonder if there may be something in the charter commentary that specifies what that meant.
Yeah.
And so we could ask, I could ask for a brief legal opinion,
Okay.
and then we could get an opinion on that, and then you could make a decision, because if it's necessary, it's necessary. If it's not necessary, your resolution would be a lot simpler.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that I'm thinking as far as you're concerned, is for clarity's sake. You may wanna make sure
Right.
that that we all understand what that means.
Right. So anyway, back to the main question. I mean, I guess we need to decide if we want to take action, and if we do take action, then we have to notice a meeting to
and
do
have a
it.
public meeting.
But you know, I mean, I lean towards taking action, but I'm certainly open to.
Well,
Okay.
Well, my turning point was the fact that we would be mirroring what was happening with the employees. Because I don't think the amount of money matters one way or another. It's how it's perceived.
And the other, and my thought too, in looking at what was in the packet in January 2015,
Mhm.
that has a breakdown really good, so we did look at it then, and we didn't take any action on the assembly. I would move that we increase the assembly. Do I have to do all that?
Yeah, I think what you have, yeah,
We
let
have
me
to
just,
wait
until-
what you have to do is you have to
Have a
move to
notice.
have a meeting
Have-
to consider doing it.
All right,
You know?
I
You know?
I
Notice
move that
meeting.
we consider increasing the assembly salaries.
Right, that we do whatever we have to do, which is to notice it and,
And then-
and then have that meeting.
And then we need
To consider.
And the action we're considering.
Consider
Do we have to
action.
specify
I
rather that we're
think
considering?
you want to have some action to consider at that meeting that will be noticed and that we will have a public hearing on.
But we can't make a motion now
You
to
can.
increase it.
You can-
Without a public
you-
hearing?
You can
Okay.
make a motion. Let's take a look at what your last one was on the mayor. Oh, that would have been. Because you increased the mayor at the meeting of the,
Right, so we look at the minutes of the meeting before that. How was the action worded
Yeah.
that triggered the meeting?
so, it's on the minutes that you approved today, January 15th, 2015, and it's on page 2, where under D, discussion of salaries. So Pat is right, she moved to consider a resolution to establish, she moved to consider an increase, so it's to consider an increase to the mayor's salary, and then a separate motion to hold the public hearing.
Okay. Yeah.
That's good.
So I move to consider an increase in the assembly member's salary.
Okay,
Second.
any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 And then
We need another one.
another motion to hold a meeting? What was that? How was it worded, Bob?
It says to hold a public hearing to hear testimony and take final action to increase, and here it says the mayor's salary to the amount of X.
So in this case, it would be same motion except consider the assembly, and instead of specifying a dollar amount, we'd say in the amount of 1.5%.
1.5%.
So there were 3 motions we made.
But
First
one
one's
was
not
the
relevant, last week.
rounding.
Right. So I just need the public hearing one. I move to hold a public hearing to hear testimony and take final action on a potential increase in the assembly salary.
Right. And do you want us to, would it be better to specify the dollar amount?
I think
Or
you
the-
need to-
the-
An
the
increase
amount?
of 1.5%
Yeah.
in the assembly salary.
Is there a second?
Oh.
Sorry.
Second. All these other
Any
members
discussion?
around.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
And then I would move to consider an increase in the school board salary.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Any discussion on that one?
Before you discuss that one, Miss Amy has the school board salary, if you'd like to take a look at that.
It should
She
be.
has done,
Okay.
oh yeah, it's still in your resolution, you have it too.
It should still
Thank
be.
you.
So this will be part of the discussion.
So their medical allowance is considered as part of their compensation.
Well, they're showing it in here, but it, yeah, there is this difference.
So they're taxed on it. Which they should be.
And Mary Ann, I'm just gonna say, we don't know the answer to that with respect to the assembly. Because she just, this came from employee relations, but she just didn't include the, benefits.
Well, I'm making an assumption that may be too big of an assumption, that the assembly would pretty much, or the school board would pretty much mirror the benefits of the assembly.
That would be an incorrect assumption.
Oh.
Yeah, because they
because-
did not previously.
Okay, but I thought there was work a few years back to try to get them in.
That's when we added the medical
Okay.
to theirs.
So the municipality has a benefit package, and that's negotiated through employee relations. And the school board has a benefit package, and that would be negotiated through their employee relations department or whatever it is. So I would not be able to say that the benefits mirrored each other.
It's interesting because school board members may participate in PERS. Which would trigger a matching contribution from the school budget. See, in the tiny, tiny little print
Down the bottom.
on this handout here, the school board total compensation report,
Mm-hmm.
the tiny print footnotes, the second one says may participate in PERS.
I believe that might be the same for assembly members. I don't know the answer for that, but they are considered municipal and government employees. Some of them have retired through PERS.
But they get additional compensation for continuing to participate. That is a huge benefit.
Well, except for one thing, is that it could hurt you, cause it kinda hurts your high 3.
Mm.
Because
Why?
because their pay is so low. it's not gonna
Oh.
really.
It wouldn't affect their high three though.
Yeah, it's not gonna affect their high
It's gonna
three,
pay
but
into
it's
their
not
total
gonna.
contributions.
Yeah. It's not gonna hurt them, but it's not.
It could really help them though. It's amazing, the additional benefits you get for working after you start receiving PERS. You know, if you go back to a job that is covered under PERS. It's quite,
But remember, I don't know what the year was, but
It's changed.
it did change. It's just a 401K.
2006, so you see the first two lines are defined contribution and the bottom
Right.
two lines are defined benefit. So the first two lines are the new tier 4 and the bottom two lines are the old system.
That's interesting.
It's interesting that they can get full medical coverage or a medical allowance.
It's because some of them may have medical through other sources, so they may choose not to have what's available by this. And others may not have had any, so that was their option too. That was part of the discussion, I remember that.
When we set a date for your public hearing, I think I should invite Karen Norsworthy or someone else from Employee Relations to discuss the benefits with you, because I think you want to make sure that we understand the benefits that they're getting.
isn't that part of our
Right,
title?
that's right, those emoluments, right?
Yes.
That'd be great.
She was a very good presenter last time.
Okay, so is there any further discussion on the motion to consider school board increase? Hearing none, is all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion carries. The one last motion, at least on this item, which is to hold the hearing, the public testimony, and consider final action.
I move that we hold a public hearing to hear testimony and take final action to increase the assembly and to consider increases in the
School board.
and the school, increases in the assembly and school board salaries.
Haven't we already done that?
You
Yeah.
did
We
already
did
did
assembly.
the assembly.
We just
so
did
this is
assembly.
just
Oh,
school
just,
board.
Oh, I
just the
thought-
school board,
Yeah.
okay.
I thought you had added that
Yeah,
to the last
that's right.
report.
And did you want a percentage in this one?
I think it was 1.5%, 1.5%.
Any discussion on that? Oh, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on that? Okay, hearing no further discussion, all in favor of the motion? Say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Do you have a date that you think would be good? I'm
No,
just
I
trying
don't
to
have my
get
calendar handy. Amy, could you poll the members by email the way you did before and see if we
Sure.
can find a date that works?
And
Mhm.
remember,
Yeah.
we need to have some period of time, and I think it needs to be more than 7. What minimum, there's a minimum time that we have to.
We
have.
need 7 days' notice, so we'll do that. But more importantly, in the charter section, it said you have to make a decision 30 days before the end of the fiscal year.
So
So
before
we'll
it's-
back it up and make sure it's done. I think you want it done, you know, as
Sometime
soon.
October, November.
Yeah, I think you want it, so we'll figure out some dates from when we need to publicly notice, when we want you back to make a decision, so that you meet all of these statutory and charter requirements.
Good.
And then I guess we better make sure get reacquainted so that we can discuss it.
Oh, that would be a good thing.
Mhm.
And
It could
it
be a
might-
meeting with no one here.
Yeah, I know.
Speaking of that, I'm wondering about if we have new members, it might be that we may have to have all of this and then, well, we can explain it to them.
Or they
Yeah.
could be recused or something, you can decide.
Oh, yeah. That's
You
it.
can work that out.
Just a lot of material that they should look at. And if there's anything more that you can get to us beforehand, it would be helpful.
I will be sure to ask them for the benefits information before then.
Yes.
Okay, I think we're done with 6B. Next item on the agenda is 7, reports. Are there reports? 8, member comments. I have one. No one else does. I just wanted to say that when I was rummaging, looking for the code and charter about when compensation triggers, I did see this handout, 4.05040, which I think must also be part of either the code or the charter.
That
Uh,
would be that's the code regarding the
code.
commission.
Okay, so it says the terms of initial or subsequent appointments to a board or commission shall be staggered so that as nearly as possible, a pro rata number of its members shall be appointed each year of the established regular term of office. So something for you to think about, that we're, 3 of us in the lump sum are probably not complying with that.
Couldn't we be reappointed for less than 3 years?
It might be the best way to handle that, you know.
Can you tell me what section
It was
that is?
4.05040, and I just stumbled on it when I was looking for the other things. So.
We'll talk to the mayor's office about that.
We just want to keep this.
Yeah. Okay, other member comments? Audience.
Thanks for letting me sit in on your meeting.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
These people are crazy.
Okay. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Hearing no objection, we're adjourned at 5:51.